Okay, so you're going to open up activity 8. That should actually be 831. I'll change that. 8-page layout. Alright, so the first thing that's going to happen to you is you're going to get a missing fonts warning here. And that's because I've deliberately used a font that you're unlikely to have on your computer. And I've also, using Mac Font Book, I've also disabled that font on my computer as well. So it's coming up with a missing font. That's fine. I'm not going to deal with that at the moment. So I'm just going to press skip. So this is where that missing font is. You can see that when you have a missing font, it's actually represented by a sort of pale pink background. That's how you can tell that it's a missing font. If you are in preview mode, so if I press W, you're not going to see that. So just remember, you need to be in normal viewing mode to see your missing font. So just a few things that I've changed about this document before we get started here. So just going forward, everything's fine here as per normal. I've changed the color here of this intro. I didn't like the original color that I did. And then on the back page at the bottom here, I've also included, and this is something that you need to do on your brochure, references and credits. So all photos, photo credit, and all information, a website. Okay, so make sure that you reference everything in your 8-page document as well. So we're going to go through the process of pre-flighting here. And pre-flighting basically just means making sure the document is ready to be sent to the printer without any errors. And when I say errors, I don't mean spelling mistakes and proofreading. That's all stuff that's assumed to be done by now. I mean mistakes in terms of what could go wrong with printing. And so what we need to do is we need to set a profile for pre-flighting that's going to check all the things we want to check. So down here you'll see that there's this little live pre-flight item here, and it says 2 errors. So that's fine, but the default live pre-flight is actually pretty forgiving. It doesn't check in a strict way for pre-flighting. So we need to edit and create our own profile that's more strict and more suited to actual commercial printing. So we're going to click on this arrow next to the live pre-flight indicator there, and we're going to go define profiles. And I'm going to make a new profile, so click on the plus button, and I'm going to call this commercial print profile. And then we need to go through some of these settings to make sure that we check for certain things. So under links, we definitely want to check for missing links. The other two don't really matter. There are no URLs in this document, so I'll uncheck that. Then for color, we want to check that the transparency blend space is CMYK. We also want to check that there are no RGB or spot colors. We also want to check that we haven't accidentally used registration as a color for black instead of actual black. That can happen by mistake. So those are the things that we're checking for color. Images and objects, we do want to check for resolution. Now in this case here, I'm going to be fairly forgiving. You could be more strict if you're doing a proper commercial print job, but I'm just going to say, providing my images are above 200 pixels per inch, I'm happy. And I'll do the same for grayscale images and bitmap images. I don't have any of them, but I'll also just put that at 200. Non-proportional scaling, have I squished any images? So I do want to check for that. Then let's have a look at other things. Layer visibility. Okay, here minimum stroke weight. So I want to check that I haven't accidentally set a stroke weight that's too low for print. So I'm just going to say minimum stroke weight 1 point. Okay, interactive elements, we don't have any. Bleed, trim, hazard, okay, that's all. Hidden page items, I'm going to leave that all as it is. Then for text, we definitely want to check for overset text and missing fonts. Non-proportional type scaling, I'm not going to check for that. Conditional text, unresolved caption variable, this is all, these are all things I'm not going to check for. For the document, page size, I'm not going to bother, that's overkill. Number of pages required, also bleed and slug setup. Let's set the bleed size must be a minimum of 3 millimeters, and we'll leave the slug settings as they are. And that's all. I think that's actually good enough. If you go overboard, it's just going to take you too long to check through things that actually aren't going to make any difference. Okay, so there we have our profile. So I'm going to save it, press OK, and then I'm going to go back to here to Preflight panel, and I'm going to choose that profile, commercial print profile. It checks and it comes back and says there are 60 errors. Okay, so that's quite a lot. So we need to just work through them and to figure out where we've got errors. So some of the things, even before I get to going through the Preflight panel, some of the things you've always got to check for is the missing font issue. So here we have that missing font, so let's just deal with that to begin with. So there's a number of ways you can deal with the missing font. So if I go to type, find replace font, there's the font that's missing. You can install the font, or you can replace that font with another font. So in my case, I'm going to install the font, and I have supplied that font to you as well. So you will find it in the module asset pack, learning unit 8, theme 3, activity 8.3.1. Let me just change that to 3.1. And here it is, BiCum Pro. You're just going to install that font, and that should solve the problem. So in my case, I'm going to go to font book, and I'm just going to right click and enable that font. Okay, so when I go back to InDesign, it should fix it. Okay, there we go. So that font has been fixed. So that's how you fix missing fonts. The other thing is, if you use a font that you're really a little bit unsure about whether it's going to translate properly for the printer. So for this entire document, I've used Arial. So it's highly unlikely that a printer is going to have a problem with Arial. But for BiCum Pro, there's a possibility that there might be a problem with that. So in a case like that, it's a good idea to convert your text to outlines. Now this here is a circular shape with text in it. So if I convert it to outlines, so select it, type, create outlines, big problem. Okay, because now it's shapes, but we've lost that circle in the background. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take that shape and copy it. I'm then going to convert this to outlines, and I'm going to paste that shape back in there, edit, paste in place. I'm going to remove the text from it, and I'm going to right click and convert it to content unassigned. Then in my layers panel, I'm going to put that in the graphics layer. So the text is now a separate object, and it's converted to outlines, and the graphic is another object. And I'm actually just going to select those two. Actually, I'm not going to group them, because then they're going to go into one layer together, which is not what I want. Okay, so that's sorted out that text problem. So let's have a look at some other problems. So for links, it's got missing links here. So let's check out what's happening here. So if I go to links, it says here all these images are missing with this little red question mark. So if you get the same error, you're going to select everything here and go to your options, relink to folder, go to your module asset pack, Learning Unit 8, Theme 3, Activity 831, 8-page folder, 8-page layout folder, links, and then choose. And it should relink to all of those images. Okay, there we go. So that's quite a few problems resolved there. Let's have a look at color. So it says color space not allowed. So here it says content uses RGB. So these images are all RGB images and not CMYK images. So I need to send them to Photoshop to convert them. So let's just do that quickly. So I'm going to select the first image here, go to Options, Edit with, Photoshop. I'm going to convert it, image mode. It is CMYK already. Okay, so that's not a problem. Let's just check. CMYK, CMYK, CMYK. Let's check this one. This one's RGB. Okay, so edit with, Photoshop, image mode, CMYK. And when you convert to CMYK, it's a good idea just to push the vibrance up a little bit. So we're going to go hue, saturation, take the saturation value up a little bit, and put the contrast up a little bit as well. That's just because printing tends to flatten images. It tends to make the contrast shallower and the colors less vibrant. So I'm just going to do that, save it, switch back here. So now this one needs to be updated. So update all links. Alright, let's see if these ones are RGB. Yep. Okay, so we'll send that also. Saturation, brightness and contrast. Save, and then update all links. Okay, so I'm going to do the rest of these here that are RGB. That's the images, and then I will come back afterwards. Okay, so that's all the images done. So let's have a look at what else we've got going on here. So if I select, it says text content uses RGB. So we've got some color issues here. We're using not just CMYK color. So let's go and look at our swatches panel. And if I look over here, I can see at the bottom here, I'm using a spot color and I'm using an RGB color instead of CMYK process colors. So just to check where that is, I'm going to go to Window, Output, Separations Preview. Put it on Separations. Now if I switch off CMYK, you can see that Caribbean blue spot color is being used as an outline for this text. So I need to correct that. So I'm just going to put CMYK back on. I'm going to double click on that Caribbean blue and change it from spot to process and CMYK and press OK. Then for the RGB color, I'm going to double click, change it to process, CMYK and OK. Alright, so that's solved a lot of other problems here. So now we've only got 4 errors left. So for images, let's have a look. Non-proportional scaling, there's one image. So if I go and have a look, it's this image here. And if I have a look in my links panel at that image and go down to the scaling options, you can see it says it's scaled on the width 98.5% and on the height 100%. So it's barely non-proportional. I mean, it's literally just a tiny bit squished on the width. So, but let me just be absolutely OCD about this and let me change that. So I'm going to right click on the image, go to fitting, and I'm going to say fill frame proportionally. Okay, so that's taken out that problem because now you can see scale 100%. Then for stroke weight, too small, we've got two lines here that have a stroke weight that is too small. So if I press 1 and I just zoom in a bit, you can see here it's this line in between these three little bits of information. And if I look up here, the line is 0.15 points. That's too small, it's not going to print. So we need to change that. So I'm going to put that up to 1 point. And then I'm going to go to the other line. Here it is there. And let me just undo that. There it is. And set that to 1 point as well. Okay, so that leaves us with one error. Let me go to it. It's overset text and it's on page 5. So let me click on the link there. It's going to take me there. There it is. So I'm just going to move that up so that I have no errors. Okay, so my Preflight panel is telling me there are no errors in the document, but I'm not quite finished yet. I need to just check for a few other things. So I know my bleed is right because I set that initially in the document. I have checked for colors. I've changed all my images from RGB to CMYK. I've checked for outlines or strokes that are less than 1 point. What I haven't checked for is transparency. So let me do that. And we have done this a few times in this module, but let's do it again. So window, output, flattener preview. And we're going to say all affected objects. Okay, so it's showing me that the word gardens is going to be rasterized together with some of the graphics from this Illustrator file here. So that's okay, that's acceptable because I want this to be in front. But what you'd want to try and avoid is any of the fine print being rasterized, which is not happening on the cover page, which is good. So let's go to the next page, refresh. So here we can see we've got a problem in that the drop shadow, which is going to be a raster object, is on top of the text, and therefore the text is going to get rasterized with it. So I need to take this object, and in my layers I need to make sure it is below the text layer in that graphics layer. Refresh. Now we have no rasterization of text. Let me go to the next spread. Refresh. Okay, so here we've got a lot of transparency, but it's all behind the text. None of the text is being rasterized, so we're good to go. Let's have a look here. Again, lots of transparency and rasterization happening here with this table, but all the text stays unrasterized, which is good. And then finally on the back page, we've got a problem. The drop shadow once again is above the text, so some of this text is being rasterized. So same solution, select, move that into the graphics layer below text, refresh. Now none of the text is being rasterized. So that's our transparency checked. Alright, so now that we've done all of that, we're good to go. So the first step is to package this document, and packaging just means take the InDesign document together with all the font files, together with all the links to images, put them all together nice and neatly in a folder for archiving or for portability to move to another computer and continue working. So packaging is something you should really get into the habit of always doing with your work. So we're going to go and save this onto my desktop, and I'm just going to make a folder called DBG for Durban Botanic Gardens, final print ready brochure. Okay, and I'm just going to save that document in there, and then I'm going to go to File, Package, and you can see there's no errors here, so we're good to go. Package, and we'll leave it in that folder. We'll make sure everything's checked except the PDF print. We're going to do a PDF separately, and all the default items are fine. So package, this is just a font warning, just say OK. So that's now the package done. Now we need to do the print ready PDF. So File, Adobe PDF Presets, PDFX 1A 2001. We'll put it in the same folder. Let's just check this folder, and then 8-page folder, save, and here we're going to make sure we do spreads and marks and bleeds, all printers marks, use document bleed settings, export. Okay, so here is the PDF with all the printers marks, double page spreads. This is a document that you can send to your printer, and your printer should be very happy with that. And if we go to the folder we created on the desktop, you will find here that you have your 8-page layout folder. Inside there you have an IDML, an INDD, your print ready PDF, your fonts, and your linked images. Okay, so this file here we can delete, and this folder is what we would keep as our archive of this document, and the PDF is what you would send to the commercial printer. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and see you next time.